Everton won to Manchester United. Who watched this one? Who didn't watch it? Did we all watch it here?
Yes, I did a video on it on Tifo IRL.
Seb didn't watch it, so we'll come back to him a little bit later. Here's the thing I want to start with Everton, because in the lead up to this game, we heard that Everton, hadn't lost for 6 games, and also that defensively they were looking rather solid. But we were having a look last week, weren't we? And I think I heard this referenced on another podcast. I can't remember which one. I've really got to start writing these things down, Steve, so that I don't forget who it is.
There's only so much I can do for you.
To reference. Who was it? Can't remember. Anyway, it's a good show. I'm sure it'll come to me. But someone was saying, when they were talking about Everton's defence, that they were saying that actually where you would expect them to be based on their expected goals against is 17th. That's where they are in the league in expected goals against. Whereas actually where they are in terms of goals conceded, they have a very, very high record. I think they're in the top 4 for a very small number of goals conceded. So there's a bit of a difference there. The key difference was Jordan Pickford, who is doing an amazing job this season, and what's the goalkeeping XG A1?
Post-shot XG.
Post-shot XG, which means, John?
So post-shot XG looks at where the ball is going after it's been struck rather than before it's been struck, which is what XG is. So XG just looks at chances and said if you took those chances, most of the time you'd expect it to go in this amount of times, whereas the post-shot XG looks at where the ball's heading towards in the goal. So if you hit the ball like clack it top corner, then you're more likely to score than if you dolly it towards the
So if Jordan Pickford has a really positive score, that means that he's saving a lot of chances that would ordinarily be expected to be goals.
Yeah, he's overperforming his numbers. So
there we go.
Keeping them in games. Yeah.
So it's unclear what to expect from this game, because on the one hand, Everton are keeping lots of clean sheets and preventing lots of chances, but also the goalkeeper's massively overperforming. What did you see from Everton's defence in this game, JJ?
Well, they were getting turned over in midfield because, Lampard sort of spoke to it after the game, saying that they want to be able to play a bit more expansive football. Like everyone wants to play expansive, entertaining football, don't they?
Yeah.
Everton I don't think they have the players for it just at the moment.
I want to play dull football.
Do you? I want to play exciting football.
If I was a coach, that's what I would do. I'd play the most dull football, and I'd see how long I could do that for before I was fired.
If you're trying to play possession football and make it more fun to watch, and you're either passing too slowly or too quickly, as Everton are doing both of, you're liable to turn over the ball in midfield. But then it's mistakes. Like Idrissa Gueye just gives the ball away for one of them. Having been given the ball straight to him.
Yeah.
I think so Everton had gone 6 games unbeaten in the Premier League before this game, and they conceded 7 goals, but
2 wins and 4 draws, I think.
Yes, something like that. But then the XGA, for example, expected goals against is 14.8, and they've conceded 9. There are 2 teams who have a worse expected goals than them in the league. So defensively, they're not actually that good.
No,
they've got a lot of players missing. I think through injury. I think. They started the season trying to play in like a back 3. They've changed that to be more of a 4-5-1.
Yeah.
But like little errors, you can't really count for that. It's not Lampard's fault that Iwobi's tried to do a step over against Casemiro.
Sure.
And he's left his position, so he goes from the left side of the field to the right.
I won't hear anything negative said about Alex Iwobi. The greatest goal scorer. I just love Iwobi. Seb, I know you didn't watch this game, but did you see Alex Iwobi's goal?
I saw his goal, I saw his mistake, and I feel for him because it becomes... Like he spent the season sort of rebuilding his reputation. He'll make that mistake. It is naivety. It's a player being in the wrong position. Yeah. And you don't do that against a player that's got, 1 million European Cups to his name as a holding midfielder.
Sure.
And
that goal, though.
It was brutal. I did think of JJ and you when that happened. When I saw it being reported on Twitter, I knew that this was coming.
He knew it. As soon as he did it, he jumps up in the air. He's like, why have I done that? Like he knows not to do it. Because he's always been coached like heavily on how to play midfield, and he's got Lampard will be there helping him. He knows how to do that.
Yeah.
He's moved from being a wide player. He moved to right back, and then I think they conceded a goal almost immediately. It was Marcus Rashford getting in between him and the centre back, but it was off. No, it was a handball instant of the VAR.
Right. Yes.
I think. The thing
Steve Henkels has very helpfully put the list of Everton's injuries in the plan for us. Lots of defenders injured.
That's nice.
Yerry Mina, Mason Holgate, Nathan Patterson, Ben Godfrey. All out at the moment. Andros Townsend as well. So, defensively speaking.
Yeah, if you lose, like any team loses their best players or their important players, it makes it a lot harder to try and win. Yeah. A lot of their chance creation comes from wide areas. So Gordon and Damari Gray putting balls into the box, or even Seamus Coleman hooking them in, something like that, Mikolenko. And then you need someone who can either win the first ball, like Dominic Calvert-Lewin, always injured, or you need players pushed up to win the second, but they're playing a bit deeper. So there's quite a bit of depth between they're not playing a really high line. They're trying to impress the first line's trying to press quite highly and aggressively, but the rest of them is a bit deeper so that they can then retreat and deal with it. They're very, very medium. Like, we've known this about Everton for a long time. They spent a lot of money, a lot of players who are all right, and they're just a medium team, and they look okay. They're not. Lampard's trying to build them into something that he wants them to be like, but it's unclear exactly what that identity is and whether they have the players to do it. And there's nothing you can really do if all your best players are injured or you're constantly having to change your starting lineup, so you can't build any cohesion. And like, United won this with mistakes that Everton made, same way that United conceded a goal with a mistake that they made. There's some things you see from Man United, how they're maybe trying to be more like a Ten Hag team in this game, because it was very end to end. Everton were very much trying to be aggressive and make it like that Goodison Park, like, rah, I'm going straight at you, and get the ball forward really quickly. And because it was end to end, you got no control over it. And obviously what Ten Hag's wanted in the past is you get control of the ball, right, and you slow things down. So later in the game, they started getting forward to the opposition half and then playing the extra pass and passing it sideways a little bit. A couple of just those kind of boring, like, pass back to the same player situations, just to slow it down so then you can get into your rest defence.
Sure.
John would have liked. And then,
he'd love that. So
just to prevent the counter-attack, and that's what they did. But the chances they're scoring are still Ole Solskjaer counter-attack chances.
Man United were poor.
Yeah, I'm with JJ. I think they generated chances through the opposition losing the ball and then being in a possession structure, which means that obviously there's lots of spaces to exploit.
The Man United way.
Yeah, and look, that's a legitimate way of generating and scoring goals, but I don't feel as though they were... Sorry. You're really quite proud of that one, weren't you? But I really don't think that's the way that they are trying to generate chances at the moment.
No.
I think when it comes to coming up against oppositions in their defensive structure, they're finding it much harder to break them down.
Let me ask about Antony, because Antony scored another goal. He scored in every Premier League goal, every Premier League game he's played in so far. Ten Hag said some interesting stuff about him after the game. He said, obviously, he's scoring goals and he's shown he can do that. But, he said when he watches his performance, he can see lots of areas for improvement for him. What do you think he's talking about?
I suspect probably that he's touching on that element that we've said there, that when you're coming up against teams who are going to sit deep and try and cause you problems, there's clearly issues for Manchester United. And it's worth saying, I think, that the Premier League is an interesting league because it's so valuable to be in it, that teams at the bottom of the table are just going to do anything they can to just stodge themselves against teams like that, which I don't think you see in other leagues so much, because the financial gap between, say, the Bundesliga and the Zweite Bundesliga is not as high. So if you drop down for a season, it's not the end of the world. Whereas I think in the Premier League, because you get that massive drop down, you get teams who are just happy to sit deep and play in a way that can actually cause these sorts of sides a lot of trouble. And so, I think when you have a player like Antony who you brought in, he's a marquee signing. He is supposed to be a creative player. I think he probably wants to see him generating more against those low block defences.
Casemiro, let me ask you about Casemiro, because I feel like there is a sort of misunderstanding about what he actually is and what he does. Obviously, as we've heard from John there, Manchester United under Ten Hag trying to do things in a slightly different way. Ten Hag wants them to build through as opposed to just chasing counter-attacks as they were doing beforehand. Casemiro, not a build-up player, and if anything, when in that Real Madrid team that he was so successful in, often they just moved him completely out of the way in order to build up. So I feel like it's worth clarifying what it is that we should actually expect him to do, because he's not gonna be, Rodri.
No, well, he was part of one of the best midfield trios of all time.
Yeah, I'm not saying he's bad.
No, but if we look at the skill set, it's like Kroos and Modric. Modric is more the player who's like a 10, playing as an 8. Toni Kroos is just a definite 8, who's more like a 6 if you want to. And Casemiro is the anchor that holds it all together. Yeah. He's played instead of Scott McTominay in this game next to Eriksen. Eriksen's your player he's like the Kroos kind of player that can progress it, even though he's more like a Modric, really. Yeah. Then you've got Bruno Fernandes as a 10. You have to play him there because Bruno Fernandes is just not great playing as an 8.
Sure.
So you can't really play the 3 that maybe you'd want. But Ten Hag's teams have generally played a 4-2-3-1 in the past. Like he had Donny van de Beek doing it for him as a 10, or Tadic and stuff like that in the past. And so what Casemiro is really good at, and what he likes doing, he says, is winning the ball, because he reads the game really well. That's the thing he's best at, is reading it from deeper positions. He almost scored a header by getting in late on, so he's playing more as a box-to-box. But players you don't have to pigeonhole him as one particular role. He's good at doing that thing he did the Real Madrid team because it suited exactly what he's doing. He's just a really good footballer who's won 1,000 Champions League, so like he's quite good. Yeah. And generally good players can play anywhere you want in different systems, and you don't build a system specifically and say, oh, we need a player that's exactly this guy to go in here. Some people do. But generally, you get really good players. So it's Man United structure anyway. You get really good players in, then you build a system around them that makes absolute most of all their individual talents.
Yeah.
Casemiro's is winning the ball back and then springing a counter. That's what he's good at.
Yeah.
The thing is, I think that's on Antony as well. Paul Scholes said the other day, I think after the Europa League game, he got hooked at half time, I think, with Sancho as well, is that he said he was a one-trick pony. Because all he seems to do is he's only got a left foot. He doesn't really ever use his right ever.
Sure.
He's actually got many tricks. He's a many trick pony, but they tend to be tricks that don't do an awful lot. There's like a FIFA 5-star skill player.
Right.
Do loads of tricks on the wing and then have to pass it backwards anyway because you can't go past your man.
He has scored a goal in every Premier League game he's
Yeah,
played
he has.
in.
Yeah, but he's a decent player. Like I like watching Antony.
Yeah.
I've watched lots from Ajax as well. I really like him. But when you're playing against, he's in the Premier League now. He's not. That's a huge difference. Wherever he's played Champions League before.
Sure.
But you know he's going to go inside.
Yeah.
And he's not as good at like going past people as Iron Robin was, for example. You can be a one-trick pony and get away with it, like Robin.
Yeah.
Or like Stanley Matthews.
Sure.
Yeah, he was a one-trick pony. And everyone fell for that. I've read plenty of Stanley Matthews.
Right, those people
analyses.
back in the past were so stupid. weren't
Yeah,
they?
exactly. But you can block him. You stop his left foot, and you see what he does is he gets the ball wide. He's normally staying out wide. Dalot's slightly inside, and then he's having to pass it backwards. The times he's able to get in is when they're in transitional moments, and he's staying out wide first of all
Yeah.
to drag the fullback away from the centre back.
And
So
then
there's
he
space
sneaks
between,
in.
and then he
Little
sneaks in.
sneaky.
A little sneaky snag.
Yeah, exactly. Okay.
If you like this video, please consider subscribing to the channel. The Athletic is home to some of the world's best sports journalists, including David Ornstein, Daniel Taylor, Ollie Kay, Amy Lawrence and Rafa Honigstein. There are journalists dedicated to each Premier League team, so every fan gets the coverage they deserve, not just the big clubs. And you can try it for free now for 30 days. See the link in the description.